Buenas, para la clase de inglés de noveno año de hoy vamos a ver lo que es el tema de los phrasal verbs. Entonces, empecemos. What is a phrasal verb? So, a phrasal verb is a combination of a verb and an adverb or preposition to create a phrase that has a very different meaning from the meaning of the words separately. What does this mean? So, we have this little phrase composed of several words. These words by themselves have one meaning, but when we put them together, we make this little phrase, and this phrase has a completely different meaning. So, phrasal verbs are something that are very, very commonly used in English, mostly when speaking, but also when writing. And you might not notice it because they blend in really well. And the more you speak and the more fluent that you are, the more used to using these phrases that you are. And so it's not something that you realize that you use until you truly pay attention, but they are very, very used. So it's really important that if you want to speak English fluently, you get to understand them and recognize them so that you can use them freely. So these phrasal verbs, they are categorized into two different groups. So we have several types. The types are, as I said, into different groups. And each group has two different types. So we have the first group, which is the transitive and intransitive. And then we have the second group that has separable and inseparable. So let's see the first group first, transitive and intransitive. So we have transitive. So transitive phrasal verbs, just like with normal verbs, normal transitive verbs, need a direct object. For example, this sentence goes, please turn off the lights. If you just put the sentence as, please turn off, it makes no sense. Turn off is to, um, like in the case of lights, like diminish to, right? They're not on, they're off. Please turn off by itself makes no sense. Please turn off what? You have to specify. Turn off the computer, turn off your phone, turn off the lights, etc. In this case, the lights is our direct object. What does this mean? Is that this action, turning off, applies and affects directly to this object, which in this case is the lights. So you cannot say again, please turn off. You have to add something. So we have, please turn off the lights. Then we have the other type in this category, which is intransitive, which is the exact opposite of the transitive. And as it is with intransitive verbs, you do not use an object. You can use it, but it's not needed. It's not in the way that transitive phrasal verbs needed. Like I said, please turn off makes no sense. In here, you can choose to use it or not use it. For example, let's say the sentence, slow down the car, we're going too fast. Now here we do have a direct object, which is the car. And slow down is the phrasal verb, that's the action, and the action is applying to the car. However, if I took the car out and I just said, slow down, we're going too fast, or even if I just said, slow down, you understand, right? That is a sentence. That means something very clear. Whatever action that's happening right now, we need to slow it down. It makes sense, right? So it does not need the direct object. So you can choose to specify it, slow down the car, or you can choose to not slow down. Both of them make sense. Then we have the other category, which was separable and inseparable. With separable phrasal verbs, you can do as it says and separate this phrasal verb. So you can put a direct object in between the verb and the particle. And it's very important to know that all separable phrasal verbs are transitive. You cannot have a separable phrasal verbs that's intransitive. All of this are transitive. For example, similar to the example that we saw here in transitive, please turn off the lights. But now we have, please turn the lights off, right? So you can see turn off is the phrasal verb, but here it's separated. The lights moved in between this phrasal verb. So we have turn the lights off. As you can see, we still need the direct object, but we can move things around. So that's why it's called separate, because you can separate the two words on this phrase and it still makes sense. Please turn the lights off. And on the contrary, we have inseparable. And as the word says, you cannot separate them. The verb and the particle must always be together, right? The phrasal verbs needs to be complete on the same place. And every single transitive verb that every single intransitive verb that you see is inseparable. So for example, we have I came across this book at the library. Came across is like to stumble upon, to find, mostly unexpectedly. You weren't expecting to find this, but you did. So I came across this book at the library. We have came across, we have this book, which is the direct object. I came across this book at the library. Then we see the next one. I came this book across at the library. That is completely wrong. It makes no sense. I came this book across. It sounds very off. And that is because came across is inseparable. You cannot put these words apart because they will make no sense. And now we're going to see a little list of some very common phrasal verbs. This is only a small portion. In the PDF of this lesson, there is a much more complete and a longer version of this list. There are many phrasal verbs, but in the PDF, there's some of the most common ones, but you will find hundreds of them. So we have call off, which means to cancel. For example, we will call off the event. Deal with means to handle or tolerate, like I have to deal with all this noise. Figure out means to solve, like I figured out the solution for this problem. Keep up means to continue something at the same rate. So keep doing something exactly the same way. For example, keep up the good work. To look for means to try to find something. For example, look for the answer on page 45. Pick out, it's to choose, like pick out a color from the color palette. Run away is to leave or to escape, like I opened the door and my dog almost ran away. Take back is to retract on something that you said or to return something. For example, I take back what I said. And lastly, wear off means to fade away, to disappear. For example, the name on the tag wore off. And now let's review a few more examples. We have I got back into reading again. She kept the secret from her friend for a long time. We're going out to a restaurant later. He gave away some clothes to a charity. Johnny pulled up on the side of the road to help the man. And I did some vocal exercises to warm up my voice before singing. Y eso sería todo por hoy. Espero que les haya quedado más claro. Y muchas gracias. Hasta luego.